it's time for Michael Scott. Unleashed.
I love that big cat. Hey, welcome to another episode of Michael Scott Unleashed. Joining me, Katie Rains. This is funny. This is like, I feel like this is a Star is Born here. I brought Katie in here on a production level, and last week she had to fill in because something we thought wasn't that was going to be in the studio didn't show. And I'm not going to try to blow her head up here because then I got to pay her something, you know. But I got a lot of good responses to you, young lady. I'm serious. Carol Kloss, who used to work at Channel 7, is like, you need to keep her. She's just the right thing, you know, to keep you under control. Going, under control? She's no lion tamer or anything like that.
Well, actually, that is one of my talents.
You get good. Have you gotten good responses from last week?
Yeah, I got some very great responses. We went to the Johnny Rogers event.
Oh, that's right. We saw each other at Jet Awards.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people that mentioned it to me then that they like what we're doing, not just me, but what we're doing.
Thank you.
Not like, ooh, I like you, Katie.
Now, can you get rid of that old dude?
But, you know, I've been doing this I'm on the production side now, but you understand Range Production came from me.
Being on the stage,
yeah, and I just fell in love with all that and started working with musicians, artists, event planning. So,
hey Cam, I don't want to leave you out here because you got some rave reviews.
People like me. What are you gonna do? You know?
No, I got it. In fact, the guy who did our greeting last week is John Kelly, who is out of LA now, and he started as my intern at Channel 7 and has gone on to bigger and better things. And we come off the air, and he has sent several pages of critique.
It was great reading.
it was.
That's right. And I sent it to all of them.
Yeah.
And you guys, man, your heads could have blown up about it because he's like, oh, you know, Johnny Carson had Ed McMahon and Letterman had Paul Schaefer. You got these guys, man. You got a team. It was so great you played off of them, Michael. Oh, man. I was like, okay.
You sent him back one word response to that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Air high five, Cam.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now I got two more egos to deal with here. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Hey, you know, you were mentioning the Jet Awards.
Yeah.
I ran into Mayor Stothert, Jean, or Mayor Jean, as we call her in the neighborhood, Mayor Jean, and gave her a big kiss on her cheek. And her new husband was standing there. And I never got introduced. Oh, I'm sorry about that. But I did pitch to her. I said, hey, you know, we got a new show on, and I'd love to get you on. And she said, let me know when, Michael.
Oh.
So I said, do I call Tommy Warren? She goes, nope. Call Carrie Murphy. I went, oh, I used to work with her at Channel 3. She said, she'll set it up. I said, now, you know, you're going to be taking questions from viewers. And she goes, oh, yeah, that's great. So I'm going to make a call today and see if I can fit her in for next week. Let's see what happens.
Well, let's see, Michael. You got the okay on that one.
Well, you know, I got a kiss out of it, so at least, you know.
Hey, I think Church Lady might be watching.
Hey, some belated thank yous. I want to thank Fred Woliski. He has been with part of this whole thing since last year. In fact, he did the original opening graphics, and we've changed it around since then. But he also did a lot of our promotional stuff that we used to pitch to sponsors back then. So, Fred, thank you for being part of it. And I want to thank...
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Fred. I want to thank David Newsom, who is at KCRO Radio. He had me on his show last Wednesday, and I had posted on Facebook the day or 2 days earlier and said, yeah, I'm going to be on KCRO Radio Wednesday. That's right. Christian radio. Stop laughing. I got all these comments about bolts of lightning and earthquakes, you know. Oh my God, Michael, do they know who they're putting on the show?
Right.
It was actually a great show.
I think they knew.
Yeah, I think he knew. And it was so funny because I was in a movie lobby, and all of a sudden I hear, Michael Scott. And I see this guy coming towards me, and I'm going, you know how you do a mental check and go, okay, I didn't go to school with him. I never worked with him. Who is this guy? And he was nice enough. As soon as he got there, he said, you don't know me. I went, oh, thank you.
You're like, okay.
But that's where he made the pitch to get me on his show. So I thank him for that. Now, I was going to complain about potholes because on April 3rd, I called the city's hotline to complain about that area of 24th and Farnham that you and I always go by.
What happens when you call the hotline? Because I've never.
It was an actual live person, which surprised me.
Oh, okay.
And she said, "What's the address?" and blah blah blah. And I said, "Okay, this is it." And I was getting a little stink because you figured I called on the 3rd, and by this past Friday or Thursday night, it was still there. So I was going to take a picture of it to use today, but it's been fixed. So use the hotline, make the call, but there's so much, I guess, it's going to take some time to get to you. But that one was causing traffic problems because people were trying to get out of the lane, so they didn't run into it.
And it's one of those uneven lanes.
Yeah, it's one of those curved lanes too. So yeah. Here's a great beef. Have you ever been to the what is it? Omaha's Memorial Day concerts? The city of Omaha celebrates. It's in the Memorial Park.
Oh, in Memorial Park, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the act you saw? Earth, Wind, and Fire,
I
maybe?
want to say it was Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Great concert, right?
Yeah.
So Tom Becca, who is a local radio and TV commentator, put on Facebook this week, he went, "All right, the city of Omaha's announced its lineup. It's Melissa Etheridge and Herman Hermits."
Right.
And that's just what and that's just the reaction I wanted to get.
Perfect.
All you heard was crickets, you know. Now, do you know who Melissa Etheridge is?
No. Can you sing a tune?
Hey, give me some "Come to My Window," Michael.
Oh, that's right. That is "Come to My Window." She's LGBTQ.
Okay.
MNOP, you know. So
LMNOP. Yeah.
She
Who's coming to her window?
Who's coming to the window? Yeah. Stop. No, see. Now you know what's gonna happen. She makes the comment, but I'm gonna be the one that gets in trouble. Oh, he made a comment about LGBTQ. He thinks
your
he's
name's on the show, man.
Yeah, he thinks he's Dave Chappelle.
No.
No.
That's what she do. That's what she do.
Okay, so do you know who Herman's Hermits is?
Sing another tune.
Mrs. Brown, you've got a lovely daughter. Didn't they do?
I can't wait to take that audio and just use it somewhere else. It's so good.
And I think they do the one, "I'm Henry VIII, I am. Henry VIII, I am." It's a 1960s group, okay?
I'm more of a 70s.
Yeah. Well, Earth, Wind, and Fire 70s, and they've come through. Hermits, I'm going, Herman Hermits and Melissa Etheridge. Well, I don't see a lot of people of color going to be at that concert. I mean, I just remember a couple of weeks ago, I heard a bunch of Latina girls singing hits from Herman Hermits, but maybe they'll be there. But that's a joke. Yeah.
Like,
so
did you? Where was this at?
Come on, city. You know. And then I complained about it to Becca, and he became an apologist for the city. Well, you know, it's hard to book acts and blah blah blah. I said they got Earth, Wind, and Fire here.
Right.
Bring them back again.
And it's the Memorial Day, like.
And the thing is, plan ahead. We've been doing this for what, 20 years or something like this?
Since I can remember.
Yeah, plan ahead. 2 years in advance to fill this one. Because there are a lot of acts like Cameo, you know. I'll even take Grand Funk Railroad, okay? But give me something, because I don't know if you know this, they did the song, All Those Chiquitas in Omaha, waiting for the band to return from the show. You're this American band. You're this American band.
It's just not my time.
You know that one, though, right?
Yeah, I used to work in rock radio, man. I know all about that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a great.
Well, talk to Cam.
All right, Katie, you're out.
Do you know I actually went out with one of the Chiquitas from Omaha?
Oh.
Cam?
I did not know that, but that's cool.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I didn't find it out till we went out. She goes, "Well, I'm one of the Chiquitas." I went, "Really?" And it turned into a great date.
Is she selling bananas? Is that what you're saying?
That's funny you mentioned banana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chiquita bananas.
Chiquitas. Okay.
Moving on.
You know, as I said, we got a lot of comments from people. Oh man, my battery power is almost out here. Anyway, I got a comment from a woman that I have known for 45 years. In fact, when I met her in Denver, she was from Omaha. And she saw the show and she said, Michael, I like it. I just wish you would stay neutral on politics. I know everyone wants to take a side, but I also feel that being neutral and being a real reporter like in the old days is not a bad approach to go. Well, I responded back to her and I said, so and so, when you reach a certain age, you say, oh, F it. How can I responsibly turn a blind eye to blatant racism in Tennessee or children being torn apart by military style weapons? And then I gave her this quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. Again, that's from Dr. King. And I said, I know there's so-and-so, there's now more to that fun-loving guy you knew 40 plus years ago. Feel free to check me. Still love you. So I want people to know that if you watch a lot of commercial television, which I do, when there's these mass shootings, people are talking about it. They're coming on their shows going, well, we're all a little stunned by what happened this weekend. You can't turn a blind eye to this stuff. This is not a sewing circle.
Yeah.
This is a show that's talking about what's going on in your community, my community, across the nation. And things need to be addressed. Again, bad news again this weekend. We had another shooting. This one was at a Sweet 16 party.
Are you serious?
Yes.
See, I haven't.
Go ahead. Talk to me.
Well, I'm just kind of piggybacking off of what you said earlier. Like, you can't turn a blind eye to these things. Like, it seems like every time I've been watching the news, it's talking about a mass shooting. I didn't even hear about this one.
It's gotten to the point that when I look at the news Sunday night, I'm going, okay, what shooting did I miss this weekend?
Right.
It's become a part of our culture, and that's sad.
So it's like, how can we not talk about it?
Oh, boy. And now I'm not going to get into the pros and cons of gun legislation, but this is what's happening in America right now. And for those of you who followed me as a journalist and followed me as a politician, my mantra back then was fairness, common sense, and honesty. That's what this show is going to be about. All right. I'm not going to make up stuff. I'm not going to say something happened that didn't happen.
Right.
A la Fox News. Oh, by the way, their Dominion trial was supposed to start today. It's now been moved to tomorrow. I think there's something in the works about jury selection. I'm surprised that Fox is going to go through with this trial because all those leaked emails that have come out of Fox hosts calling the Dominion voting thing a scam. It's not true. It's a hoax. They knew it. They were going, I can't look at Donald Trump anymore. He's evil. But then they go on and interview him again. Sean Hannity, one of their number one hosts, he went off on Trump in his Texas. But 2 weeks ago, he's doing a 3-night special giving the president or the ex-president a sounding board. So I don't understand how that works at all. As I just said earlier, we read a comment from someone who reached out to me personally, but we want to hear from you. Katie's over here. She's manning the, I want to say manning the phones, but it's not manning the phones. It's manning the laptop. And if you have any comments, is that where they're sending it to? Michael Scott, that's on the screen?
Yes. So what I am looking at is I'm going back and forth from Facebook. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. And then your email address. So there is a Twitter as well. But I think that can that go to StreamYard, Camp? Those comments?
Yes, from Fritter, Facebook, Fritter. That's the thing.
Fritterbook.
Oh, we're having fritters.
We're having fritters. It's delicious breakfast. I do have the all the social media links scrolling across the bottom of the video as well. If you're watching on YouTube.
Oh, I see it. Okay,
Yes.
terrific. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and I think our system it goes to StreamYard, like all of them. You could just tell which social media platform it's coming from. But yes, we're on it.
Today's topic: mental health and teenagers. Primarily girls. We put together a couple of experts. We're going to be talking to them. Right now, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to dive right in. Michael Scott Unleashed, Reigns, manning the laptop, trying to cull all your comments, the good comments. We only want to hear the good ones. No, actually, this is going to be a subject that is very disturbing here. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control, released a report in February that kind of stunned me. It was going here. It says, sexual attacks and other traumatic experiences have led to an unprecedented level of hopelessness and suicidal thoughts among America's young women. Quote, our teenage girls are suffering through an overwhelming wave of violence and trauma, and it's affecting their mental health. Results from the CDC's 2021 Youth Risk Behavior Survey show startling trends. Nearly 3 in 5 teen girls, that's 57%, said they felt persistently sad or hopeless. That is the highest rate in a decade. And 30% said they have seriously considered dying by suicide, a percentage that's risen by nearly 60% over the past 10 years. All right, we decided to make this a serious subject. We're going to go long a little bit on this segment. I brought in 2 mental health experts. First one is Kriya Lendzion. Kriya is a counselor at an all-girls school. So she is dealing with this on a daily basis. She's out of Pennsylvania. I'm sorry if I got that incorrect. She's got 20 years experience. Also, closer to home, we have Shelina Williams, who is from the Charles Drew Health Center. That's where I go for my therapy help. I'm serious. I go to a therapist once a week, and I got to. Anyway, she is behavioral health therapist, and she is also specializing in teens and young adults. Ladies, let's bring you up. It's glad to see you here today. Hey, Kriya. Haven't seen you in a while. Okay.
I know.
Good.
Pleasure and honor to be here. Hi, Shelina. It's a pleasure and honor to be here.
Thank you. Where are you based out of?
Asheville, North Carolina. So western part of the state.
I don't know why I put you there. Okay, Asheville, North Carolina. Ladies, let's start with you, Kriya. The CDC report came down, and if I remember, on Facebook, you made some comments about it.
I did. Yeah.
Your feelings when you saw that report?
Disturbed and not surprised. I think, in working with adolescent mental health, and this is my 4th girls' school that I've worked at, and I've been in adolescent mental health for 20 years. And so, and I was a teenager that struggled with my own mental health and also dealt with sexual assaults. And, so it's not like it's new. But when I heard those statistics, it was just sad. It's sad, but not surprising.
Shelina, what about you, kid?
Good morning, everyone. I would say that I am not surprised, just given the climate of the clientele that I'm seeing coming actually in for help. It saddens me to see that there is a significant increase in that, but it does also perpetuate the depression and the different diagnoses that we are seeing day in and day out.
You know, Kriya, you mentioned something about you were a teenager too. A few years ago, like 25 years ago, here in Omaha, the is Richard Young still around, Shelina? It was like a mental health center for kids. It's not around anymore?
Well, no, Richard Young they closed many moons ago here.
They invited me to come speak to a large group of their kids. And before we started talking, I walked around and met the kids and, why are you here? And when I got up and spoke, I said, you know what? I look at you kids and I go, 30 years ago, I'd have been in this group too. And the counselors loved that I said that, because it was like, see, he's functioning. You can get your stuff together here. You two ladies, do you deal with parents who just come at you so frustrated about what they're dealing with at home? Shelina?
The parents are very concerned with the lack of services, I believe, in a sense, because they don't know where to turn. They don't know what to do. It almost seems like there's a disconnect with the services world and getting the services to the parents and the kids. So what I usually deal with is just like a parent coming to me in tears saying that, I don't know what to do with my child. And I need help. And so, and at that point, it's there's been some ruptures in that attachment. There's been some ruptures in the relationship where a lot of these kiddos are suffering, I say, in plain sight. And so it's really hard to sort of dive into that. But, we take it one session at a time, and there's really nothing more that I tell them, but I do really try to empower them in a way that says that this will be a journey, but your child will get better. And so will you in the midst of that relationship.
Kriya, I see you nodding approvingly.
Yeah.
How do you talk a parent off the ledge, first of all? I mean, they're dealing with this nonsense 24/7 at home. Kids slamming doors, kids introverted, and they're wondering, is he going to be the next guy to grab a rifle and hurt his classmates? Right. What are we talking about here?
Sure. I mean, it's the hard thing is that they feel like they're swimming upstream, and they are. Right. We've got all of these cultural forces right now, because if we dive into it, I mean, I think screens are a huge piece. Porn is a huge piece. Economic, just kind of the state of the world right now. And the fact that the kids are plugged in and overwhelmed by that, like how can we fix that? Like, so I mean, I'm doing what Shelina's doing too, and trying to do the best I can, behind closed doors and with a family system. But the tough part is that we've got this bigger system that's really chipping away and pulling and pushing on them, that is not quick fix. It's not a once a week session kind of thing. So, the best that we can do with a family is try to help parents be informed and resourced. But like Shelina said, I mean, one of the big problems is accessibility to mental health supports for every age, right now is problematic. And so you'll get, and I'm in the field and I'm constantly like griping at my own people about like, hey, I just talked to this family, like they called me in crisis. I referred them to you because I can't see them. And they've made 15 calls around town, and this is for people that, like, if you don't have the language, if you don't know how to work the system, which we don't automatically know, and they make 15 calls and maybe one or two therapists call them back and then says, I'm full. They don't know what to do next.
I see you also nodding over there, Shelina.
It's a lot of different hats that you wear. I'm a therapist, I'm a life coach, I'm a case manager. I do a lot of that assistance with them. And those are things that are non-billable situations, right? So you don't get paid for being on the phone for like an hour, or, trying to help a family navigate that. I do a lot of that, just coaching in the moment. Like, hey, let's pick up the phone right now and let's call them, and that sort of thing. And I feel like that builds the relationship, but it also models for that parent in a way that they're able to utilize that, like, without me, down the road. So it's just really a lot. It's a lot of little nooks and crannies, and like you said, using some of those resources that you have. We've been in the field quite a long time. I know you probably have too, and so your go-to people that have openings, maybe don't have openings, but then there is a gap in service, because I'm only one person, but I literally had a full caseload within a month of the Teen and Young Adult Center being open, and they were blown away. They were like, wait, how did you get so busy? And it's like, well, there's definitely a need out here. And then once their friends started, they started getting better. So then they're saying, oh, well, I go to this lady and you need to call them and get in. And then before you know it, it's like, okay, you're full. So I also need to clone myself because it's only one person and I can only see so many teens and young adults in 1 week.
Ladies, I hear both of you talk about a lack of resources out there. Shelina, you're with Charles Drew Center. Deals with a lot of grants, a lot of government funding, but it's still not enough. Am I correct?
You're correct. It's just it's almost like a drop in the bucket kind of thing, right? And it's sort of like, there's a lot of different things when you're dealing with mental health, also because of the stigma in the communities that we serve at Charles Drew. So I have to do a lot of that, you know, ridding them of that stigma, getting them comfortable to be able to open up. Maybe they've had a bad therapist in the past and didn't listen, or different things like that. So you're kind of working with what you have. I always say we are a small but mighty team here at Charles Drew. I always say we're the best kept secret in North Omaha, as far as the mental health piece is concerned. And so I was so excited and just to be a part of this mission to move it forward and, dispel that stigma.
Okay, I'm glad you ended that sentence on stigma, because just yesterday morning, talking to an older friend of mine, I've known her for 40 plus years, and I said, well, I was telling my therapist, and she goes, you still go to a therapist? You've been going to a therapist for 30 years. I go, do you go to church? She goes, yeah. I said, I go to a therapist. It works for me. I said, I don't want to have this argument again. And I make it a point. I go to the Charles Drew Center. I go once a week. And as I told my lady friend, I tell my therapist stuff I couldn't share with the woman on the phone or share with you without judgment. Well, sometimes he gets a little judgy, but without judgment. We need to break down the walls on this, especially in the communities of color that, excuse me, ladies, that it's not a stigma. If you break your knee, you go to a doctor. If your spirit's broken, you got to see a therapist or go see a priest, but you got to talk to someone. You got to get it out there. Kriya, I guess the question now is, what are some things parents need to look out for to know that they may have a problem brewing? Kriya?
Yeah. Well, this is hard because I do want to answer that. And then I also want to stress that I think a huge difference would happen in schools. So let's put that on the shelf. Mm-hmm. Huge difference. But I think, I can talk about screens all day. This needs to be a whole other topic. But I know Shelina's like, mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, what are we talking about? Screening
because let me circle back. Let me circle around here, because I think that there is a disconnect between parents and kids that is just increasing and increasing and increasing, right? Where like culturally, right? We used to get our values, our guidance, our information kind of vertically, if that makes sense, from our parents, from our relatives, our elders. And now, because kids are plugged in, because 95% of them by the time they're 13 have phones, because they're on screens 9 hours a day, 13 and up, right? That they have this whole other world going on, this whole other subculture, their language, their jokes, their media that they're consuming, the things that they're plugged in and they're watching and they are being exposed to, right? It is totally different from what the adults are seeing. So there's this complete disconnect. So I'm circling around to say that, your question that you asked a minute ago about like, how do parents, even like, what do you do with the parents is help them connect. They've got to connect and know how to talk to their kids and have open dialogue where they're based in calm and caring and curiosity, so that whether the kid has shown up as vaping or whether it turns out that they are cutting or whether they're hiding in their room all the time or whether they are playing too many video games, that a parent approaches that with again, caring curiosity. Like, because it might be something and it might not be something, right? They might just being a normal teenager. But unfortunately, what we're seeing is that normal teenager right now, that there's a lot going on for the most of them. Most of them are feeling some level, of intense stress that they don't have the tools to cope with.
You folks sound like you have the same lament that teachers have. We don't have enough resources. Our classes are too big. We can't deal with kids one-on-one like we hope to. And I guess it comes down to a better assessment of priorities by society. These are our kids. This is the next generation. Especially when I get into the conversation about schools, because I used to work in a New York City high school, is that if we don't train these kids emotionally and mentally, who's going to repair the streetlights when I'm 70 years old? Who's going to be, fixing things around here? It's these kids.
Right. Well, they get physical education, but they don't get mental health education in schools. Right. And school see, I'm gonna start now, Michael. You got me. I'm warmed up now.
Can I curse on this? Because I get really worked up. I said you can throw in a heck or a damn or something like that.
Yeah, I'll be careful with that. But this is so, as like what you were saying before about somebody critiquing you for being political. It shouldn't be a political issue, right? Here's the thing: like, if your theme of your show is fairness, common sense, and honesty, we should just be following data. We should, right? And
yes.
the data.
And we shared the data on this, yes.
Right, and the data shows us that in schools, that what makes a difference with all of that, what we're talking about is that if we had comprehensive sexual education, where we were talking about porn and we were talking about sexual violence and we were talking with girls about how like this should actually be something that you enjoy and that you're not just there to, I'm sorry, I'm going, but you're not just there to be like a receptacle for a guy. Right. I mean, really, that needs to be talked about in schools, or we need to be supporting LGBTQ kids, because that's the other population that the CDC report showed us is an extreme crisis. Are kids that are LGBTQ, and we're not. If we right now we're at a time in our schools where it's gotten politicized to be able to talk about sex, talk about drugs. We're not even allowed to mention that, oh, I'm a gay teacher that has a partner, or that people get married of the same sex, that there's hope for you to have thriving in the world. Like, all of those conversations are starting to be shut down politically. What does that leave LGBTQ kids with? What is that when there's not sex ed that talks about those things? What does that leave our girls with? Right? You can't talk about porn. You can't talk about sexting, in any kind of honest way. And all of that is this is the cause of some of this stuff, in my opinion. And then school counselors. So I've been doing this for 20 years. So yes, I believe that if school counselors had 100 kids on their caseload, So when those things did pop up that they are able to see, right? There's kids that are high risk for all of this. There's data behind research that shows us which kids are most likely to be perpetrators of sexual violence and which kids are most likely to be the victims of that. Right? We've got that data. So what if we were to like be able to wrap around those families and those kids, you know, in that where we have that active audience, you know, like in schools, and it was 100 kids to every school counselor, but instead it's 500.
Yeah, there's no way you can address that. Even if you met a kid, like 5 kids a day, you still would not be able to touch on all the kids by the end of the semester.
Right. And then it's just putting out fires. You don't have time to wrap around their family. And like Shelina was saying, is like connect them to resources, you know, that would help them strengthen the family unit and protective factors to prevent them from going in these directions that, you know, statistics show they're likely to move into without intervention.
You know, when we're talking about staffing and resources, when I worked in the New York City school system at George Washington High School in Upper Manhattan, and I was with a children with emotional handicap, CEH program. And a lot of these kids had emotional problems, whether they were school phobic or what. But we had maybe 30 students, but in our program, we had 4 adults, actually 5 adults. And I was a paraprofessional. But because I was a black male, a man of color in a predominantly black school, the kids kind of gravitate towards, well, Mr. Scott said I didn't have to do that. I'm going, no, you got to listen to her. I'm not in charge here, okay? So I've heard you mention porn twice, and you've talked about sexual violence. Shelina, are you seeing these issues coming up when you're talking to people?
Yeah, I think that that's one of the underlying concerns that have occurred. These children and young adults are experiencing these traumatic events that have occurred, and they're not telling anyone. And so they're sort of, that's where I was going with that, suffering in silence. And so when they're starting to, you know, shut down and starting to self-harm and different things like that, and then their parents are now starting to see different, like, it's almost like a light switch, you know, oh my gosh, my child turned, you know, she went from talkative and outgoing to like this recluse person and wearing, you know, different clothing and different things like that. So the signs are there, but the parents maybe are struggling because they're trying to keep the lights on, the gas on. There's a lot of different things going on in their world and then their kids. And so I totally agree that the disconnect is the social media. But the thing is that these kids are going to the social media outlets and getting their information, which is very scary because you have these, what are they calling them? The people that are like the Instagram and different things like that. And they're saying,
what is
they're
it called?
influencers. Yeah, and you have these influencers that have no type of training, and they're trying to, you know, do these things. And so I've had several kids come in and say, well, I saw this on TikTok, and I'm just like, okay, well, let's talk about that, right? And so it is a instant gratification that they're going through as well. And so I think that there's a lot of things that they could be doing within the school systems to like bolster that up, but they're kind of just they're running on fumes as well. So it's just like the system seems to be broken at this point. And I feel that we are headed for a third pandemic with the mental health crisis. And I just feel like as we are coming out of COVID, they are not giving the credence to the situation of these kids being in this situation for the last 3.5 years, and then just coming back, and now everyone's like, oh, let's just turn the page, business as usual. And no, they are not healed. They have experienced these traumatic events, and they need somewhere an outlet such as the mental health outlet to assist them, to give them the coping skills to sort of be able to even get through one day. The severe, persistent suicidal ideation that I see is scary. And I don't know if parents really know that your child feels like they want to kill themselves every single day of their lives. And so to me, I feel so grateful to be able to help students in that moment of, you know, that they need, and then to try to help them through it. But I'm only one person, and so there's so many more. Like you said, even if you'd seen 5 kids a day, you wouldn't be able to get to everyone. So it's just one of those things where we have to band together. I feel like work smarter, not harder, and partner and try to figure out what we can do, because the kids are our future.
Ladies, one moment here. Katie, are we getting any reactions from folks? You got any kind of stuff?
We are, but it's nothing too clear on your conversation here. But you got from Tony Davidson watching from Clear Lake, Houston.
All
Happy
right.
Monday. So we are getting likes and loves on the conversation though.
All right, terrific. And thank you, Mr. Davidson. Hey, Kriya, just to let you know, he was up with people too.
Hey.
Yeah, you meet us wherever you go.
Sorry, crowd, for the personal joke. Yeah.
You know what, folks? Look up with people, and we'll talk about it next time, the next day. Okay? But yeah, that's something we both experienced.
Michael, can I just before we speed past it, can I say more about the porn piece?
Yeah.
No, never mind.
No, you can say more about the porn piece.
Afraid what I'm going to say. Well, I'll keep it clean. I mean, keep it clean. I'll keep the porn clean. No, but this is what I want to say is the bottom line is that we've got plenty of research at this point that shows us that, for one, that average age of porn exposure is 11 or 12. And so about 75% of kids by the time, you know, they're 17 have viewed porn. That because this is coming back to because we don't have comprehensive, you know, sex ed in schools, and kids are curious and want to know what to do and not do and what's going to happen. They're getting their sex ed from porn. And that a large majority of that includes physical violence, you know, violence and verbal violence, aggressiveness, that 95% of that is towards the women.
Yes, it is.
There. And so they have shown very clear links between more violent men. Where's the exact? I had an exact quote around this. Is that the younger a man is when he first views porn, the more likely he was to want power over women. That was a study. So the more viewing, the more violent and sexually violent men tended to be in their relationships. So girls watching this. So I have had girls come to me and they are normalizing, because it is the violence is being eroticized and normalized. And so they think they're supposed to be doing this thing. They think they're just supposed to be letting this happen, and it doesn't matter that it doesn't feel good or it feels icky, but that's what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. You know, you've got me afraid now, because I was a late bloomer. It wasn't until 15, you know, that I really started sprouting up. But when I was 9 years old, my best friend, who was 9 years old, his older brother and the older kid across the street said, "Hey, come here, we want to show you guys something." And they went under the guy across the street's father's bed and found his porn magazines. And they showed it to us. Oh, man. It was my first exposure. And
but think what you had to go through to get that.
But I'm thinking about, though, what happened, because both my friend and myself, we were aroused by it. And the older kids said, "Well, kneel in front of this floor fan and it'll cool you off."
Interesting.
So that's just my weird growing
They've
up.
got 24/7 access.
I know.
To unlimited.
And you know what? Anything goes on a lot of these sites.
Right. And they're not Googling feminist porn. You know, that's not, they're just going to Pornhub.
Well, you know what, Cam, I was telling him this morning that I tried to Google search teenage girls in the schoolyard, and I got a porn site.
Oh, dear.
I was going, whoa. Yeah, it's out there. It's out there. Leave us with a final thought, ladies. The situation seems overwhelming. I see in you two ladies concern for the children and their parents and society. Wrap it up for me. Shelina, go ahead.
I would just say that if you're a family and that you are struggling with your son or daughter or your family unit, that the resources are out there. Charles Drew is a very good resource in this community, but like your local community, like get the help and just keep pressing. If one door closes, another one will open. I feel like in this day and age, we have to give each other grace and meet them where they're at. And Rome wasn't built in a day. And so I feel like I kind of put my little superhero cape on and say, we're going to heal the community one family unit at a time. So that's kind of what I'm doing.
Kriya, you may not know this, but Omaha is home to Boys Town. And they offer a lot of resources to families out there. In fact, they run commercials for their hotline. If you've got any problems, and the hotline's aimed at parents and kids. Kriya, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think in terms of, well, for one, I encourage advocating for what I talked about in schools, for there to be more covering up, and again, shouldn't be a political thing. Wherever you stand, is that follow the data of what is shown to be supportive to our kids in schools. Is that include LGBTQ inclusive environments keep our kids from killing themselves. It's just that simple, right? And so does comprehensive drug ed because that's also what's going on with girls is there's an increase in drug use. It's higher in girls as well with this data. So advocate for that, fight for that in your schools. There to be comprehensive drug ed, comprehensive sex ed, and mental health education. How can they weave that in? I think for parents, really working on how to have open dialogue with your kids where they feel respected and heard and validated for their experience, but you have to be humble and you have to show up and let them do more than 50% of the talking and say, so, because again, social media, and we didn't even really go there, is a big, huge piece of what's going on with girls. What they're told, the pressures that they are under in social media is a huge factor. And so we have to, as adults, be curious about, what are you watching? What are you listening to? What are you getting from that? What is that leaving you feeling about yourself and the world? And so and your place in the world. And then, because they need to understand the kids. It can't just be the parents talking and being like, this is bad for you because of this. This is going to ruin your mental health. Here's the data. It can't go that way. Right? We have to help them get what it's doing to them so that they will be internally motivated to do something different with the ways that they interact online and the ways that they interact with, dating partners and the way, right? Is that, so it really has to be open dialogue that empowers them to tune into what feels right for them. And then we ask, how do I support you in that?
Okay. Ladies, I really appreciate it. You gave us a lot of information. I hope that people who are watching the show will say, okay, my son is having problems with my granddaughter. I want them to watch it. Go to YouTube, Michael Scott Unleashed. Share this video with people. Kriya, I guess I'll see you at the next reunion, Up With People reunion. But thank you for coming forward and helping me out with this. I met you.
Can I say this really quickly? I just want to say I do have on my website. I have some resources for parents. There's a screen health section that talks a lot like these things that you can hand to your kids to say, hey, read this or let's watch this together. We can talk about how mental health. We can talk about predators. We can talk about sexual aggression, like things that empower parents to do that with your kids. Then there's a screen health section on my website.
What do they look up? Just under your name?
KriyaLendzion.com. Yeah.
KriyaLendzion.com. Shelina Williams. I should have let you know, Kriya, that Shelina grew up watching me on TV.
Oh, yeah.
This is a full circle moment for me. So
yeah, it was kind of gushing when I called her this past week. Oh, Michael Scott, I know who you are. And she started giving my biography, but it was great. Hey, Shelina, thank Larry Duncan for helping us put you with us. I will definitely be bringing you on more and more. You and your grand piano.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Thank you. All right. We are going to take another break, and then we're going to come back and do some odds and ends. All right. Welcome back. Is there something on my face outside of my fingers?
Your eyes.
Well, no, I
and
thought it felt like there
your
was something like
eyebrows.
if I were
and-
home, I would have thought it was a bug or something, And they'd be jumping up and freaking out. The dog's going, "What's going on? What's going on?" Hey, this one is for Katie. Tomorrow, a very special lady is having her 103rd birthday.
Yes.
And Katie's her granddaughter. Why don't you tell us a little bit about her? Name, everything.
So her name is Ruth Lorraine Patrick Thomas. There's so much that you could say about her. She's about to turn 103. However, she's done a lot of work like in the community. This year she was recognized by Exarban for Business and Industry Award. That was pretty cool. She has a lot of credentials.
Well, we were talking to the
Um,
folks at Charles Drew, and you just said to me, she made that
She-
happen.
Yeah, she served on the board of directors, the first board of directors for Charles Drew Health Center. Along with, she was the first Black to sit on the OPS board.
Wow.
And then from there, she transitioned to the first board to open up Metro Community College. She was appointed by the governor to do that.
That's exquisite.
And you ask her these things like, "Well, that's a big deal." And she's like, "Oh, I guess so. Like, I just was in the right place at the right time." I'm like, "Okay, grandma." She's a diamond soror. Can't leave that one out. I think 78 years, something like that.
Oh, this is a sorority.
Yeah, look at her. That's May 24th. That says 1942. That's her graduating from UNL.
Oh, man.
She was born in Lincoln.
Do you resemble her in any way?
I do.
And that's her?
Yeah, that's her. My grandpa. That's where the
Well-
Thomas came in, but she kept Patrick.
Well, as I said to you earlier, when you were telling me about her, I said, well, I moved here in 82. I probably interacted with her sometime because she was probably only 60 at the time.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
that seems around the time that picture.
that's
made
what I
up.
got the feel of that
Oh,
picture.
yeah?
Yeah. So tomorrow, 103.
103.
And the day I hired Katie, I went over to her grandmother's house
Uh-huh.
and actually went up and said hi to her. And, 103. Man,
She was sitting there chilling, huh?
watching her shows with the volume up.
Yeah.
But I've been telling people, my neighbors are probably complaining I'm getting older. My volume keeps going up on the TV. Yeah.
Mhm.
But I wish her the best.
Thank
Oh,
you.
look at that.
Yeah,
Oh, that's sweet. That's
my
sweet.
dad. But yeah,
Your dad's
she's
first name is James?
yeah. So
James.
she also with my grandpa there. They were just up. She's a funeral director as well, and she was actually in her class the only black that graduated. She started with another dude
Mhm.
or a man,
But he mustered
but
out.
I don't know. I forgot what she said. What happened to him? But she was. Oh, and there she is. She's the little girl in the middle there,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
that's all of her mother's family.
Now, you just mentioned something. Thomas Funeral Home is your family.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't find that out till last week. Someone had said to me, I was going, well, I'm working with Katie Rain. And they said, who? And I said, tall, slender, does a lot of modeling. And they went, well, I know a Katie Thomas. And I went, no, that's not who that is. But then last week, she sends me something and it says Katie Thomas. And I went, are you the funeral home family? And she goes, that's one of my many jobs.
Hey, I'm just saying.
All right. Terrific. Also,
But yeah, thank you for that.
Oh, no. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. What is her first name?
Ruth.
Ruth Lorraine Thomas.
She's the original Rain.
Explain that.
Yeah. Oh, well, my company's called Range Production, so everything that I'm doing now, just so ambitious, not afraid to be that person.
That's her.
Yeah, that's definitely her. And then that umbrella's some other companies, including my own, which is Rain's Magic, the Detox. I'll have some juice for you next week. But yeah, she taught me a whole bunch of gardening, health secrets.
Oh, cool. I look forward to that next week.
Yeah.
Just make sure it's cold.
Yeah. I got you.
I don't want to drink something green that's warm.
Mm-mm.
No, it's like
I wouldn't serve it to you.
It's like mucus or something.
I wouldn't serve it like that.
Hey, Michael, a mucus shake.
Ew.
Hey, we're also kicking around. This morning when I came in, I said, maybe Monday's not a good day to have this show.
Yeah.
Let's think of another day. And folks, what do you think about Tuesdays at 10 a.m.?
Tuesdays.
By then, we're into a news cycle, so we can talk about things that happened yesterday, not Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And it will work for me. I get another hour's sleep, so that's great for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know. We'll keep you posted. If we move, we'll let you know where we are. I want to talk about this road rage. I was telling you about this in the car.
Yeah.
So,
where's your? You got it?
Oh yeah. I got my prop here. Yeah, I got my prop. Anyway, it's middle of the afternoon yesterday. I'm driving on Fort going east, and I'm at the light at 120th. I think that's that first intersection towards the interstate.
Mm-hmm.
And this car is throwing trash out the window. It is a silver Escalade. If you know anybody out there with a silver Escalade, I'm talking about them, okay? Silver Escalade, and they're throwing out like the wrappers from their ice cream out the window. So I honked the horn on them. And they opened the window again and flipped me off. And I opened my window and I returned it, So all of a sudden, they change lanes and come up behind me, and they're flashing their lights. They're honking the horns. They're playing that chicken thing like where they're going to come up on you real fast. Mm-hmm. So I remembered an old trick that I used in college. I leaned over and picked up something and let them see that I had it in my hand as I brought it across.
Uh-huh.
And I had the necessary effect. They thought it was a gun. Folks, this is my walking stick. People in my building, they go, is he the guy that walks around with the samurai sword?
Yes, that's me.
It's a piece of bamboo that has black tape in the middle and black tape at the ends. And it scared the heck out of those people behind me. I think they thought I had a rifle.
Now, why is there tape on it?
So a better grip.
Oh.
Come on.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It was so funny because they went back into a lane and made the first left turn.
Yeah.
Which, funny, it goes down to the police department out there.
Oh.
And I was going, oh, man, I should run after them.
Oh, my gosh.
I should run after them.
No, I think you did the right thing. I think you did the right thing there.
I was 20 years old, working in Tucson, Arizona. I was actually going to school and working in an after-school program teaching third graders. And I was in a dark neighborhood in South Tucson, and a bunch of white guys in a car were coming at me,
Mm.
honking the horn. And because it was dark, I opened my glove compartment and the light came out, and I acted like I took something out of the glove compartment. Pew! They take
So
off. Yeah.
You said in your 20s?
Yeah, I was like in my 20s.
So
Yeah.
this has been your trick for years, huh?
Yeah, I've just blown my whole
I
act.
know. I was like, well, we might not have wanted.
You know, a lot of times you can fake out thugs, and that's the fun part about it.
Mhm.
All right.
Hey, we got a new comment in.
Oh, who's that?
Tony Davidson. Thank you for the information shared to help our youth with mental and social concerns in this time of growing challenges. I enjoyed your guests and the show.
Oh, thank you, Tony. Tony, you know what? I'm gonna tell you something. You're probably gonna get a friend request from Tony. Oh, he's a player.
Oh, he's a player.
He and I.
All right. Well,
he was in Up With People a year before me, but then a couple of years later, Up With People asked me back and asked him back, and we were a part of a cast that performed for Expo 74 in Washington State.
What is Expo 74?
Like World's Fair.
Oh,
World's
I've been
Fair.
to the World's Fair before.
And we were performing at it. We were doing 7 days of shows, 5 to 7 shows a day. And we got a day off. And it was the first time someone paid Up With People performers to do the show. We also stayed in the Gonzaga dorm, which was empty because it was the summer. We were like what my father would say, we were like mad dogs in a meat factory. Because every day new women were coming through the fairgrounds, and we were the #1 act on the fairgrounds. General Electric sponsored us, and we were doing these shows.
Now, what is this?
Up With People?
Yeah.
You know Tim Clark, and you don't know what Up With People is?
No.
That's how Tim and I know each other.
I
Up With People.
know. I've been hearing it.
It's a musical group, educational musical group, where you take young people from around the world, and you travel, and you stay with families when you travel. And it's the best way of getting to know people.
Yeah. Okay, he's definitely told me about that before, but I didn't know the name of it.
Yeah, and there's a message in the music. You know, we can all get along, that kind of stuff. True story.
Was Tim at the thing that you just were talking about?
The reunion? No, Tim traveled in a year alternate to mine, so he wouldn't be at my reunion.
Oh, okay.
Because he's a child.
Oh my God.
But an example. Up With People, CBS asked Up With People to do a TV special. And they flew, we have like several casts traveling at the same time. And they flew me down from my cast because they wanted the good lead dancers.
Yeah.
And also I had a big afro, so it looked good on back in the 70s rebound. Hey, we got a black guy. Ooh, we got a black guy. So
your fro was pretty
thick. So we go to New Mexico, and I had never been to New Mexico, and it was January, but I figured it was going to be warm, but it wasn't. The family picks us up. It's a white family, mom, dad, teenage daughter, and young boy. It's kind of like Blindside, you know. We get in the car. It's myself and a Native American cast member who I've never met. He's from another cast, and we're all being picked up by these families. And the guy turns to us and says, you know, I really didn't want you guys here. And I made it clear. This is what he said. I didn't want any niggers, Indians, or spics in my house.
Oh.
The Native American guy is just like stone cold. Nothing, man. Like, I've heard this before.
Oh,
Me,
yeah,
I'm going,
yeah.
I'm glad I picked up that switchblade when I was in Mexico. I mean, when I was in Spain. So
what? That's crazy.
we're doing like 12-hour days of rehearsals for this special.
That's the first thing he said to you.
That's the first thing he said to me. The rest of the family was very cordial.
Yeah.
The teenage daughter maybe too cordial, that she scared the hell out of me. She'd go, oh, come in my room and lock the door, and we'll listen to
like, no
comedy albums. I go, no, don't lock the door. No, not with your father out there.
Did you hear what your daddy said?
Hey, my first night there, I slept with my knife under my pillow because I didn't know what this guy was all about. But the next night, I come home and I sit up and I talk to him. And keep in mind, it's 1972, 73. In his mind, this is a black kid from New York City. His father's probably not in the picture. His mom's probably a crack addict. His sister's probably a whore. And I sat there and I talked to him. We sat there for many nights talking, me telling him about me. and him sharing stories about himself from going to school. And it was really cold in New Mexico. I did not know that, did not have the proper equipment. The day we left, they took us back to our buses, and his wife gave me a little gift. The kids gave me something. And the guy hands me a box, and he says, it's unusual for someone like me to give the likes of you something, but take this, and you have a place to stay if you ever come back. And he gave me a pair of gloves. And the whole thing is, you wear down people one at a time.
Yep.
They got to meet you. They don't know what a black man out in New York is like. And here's an opportunity for you to sit down and do that. I remember when we were in Spain, and one of my cast members would say he was from Chicago, and they go, "Oh, Chicago," because it's the Untouchables.
Yeah.
That's all he knows, gangster movies. So that's the good thing about it with people. We all stay in touch, as you notice. And that's
so it's no longer a thing.
You know what? It's right now in the process of resurrecting.
Oh, really?
COVID hit them hard because you can't have kids on buses.
Yeah.
You can't go to people's houses. So how do we pull this off? So right now, many of the head people have talked to us. And anytime I meet a young person who's interested in music
you direct
or
them there.
dancing, I send them there. And if they got a good head on them, they're not all stuck up on themselves and they can relax with other people, I send them that way, man.
Straight there.
It's the best deal.
Well, that's good that they're getting started again. I like to hear that.
Anything else we were going to talk about today? Or was that pretty much it? We talked about your grandmother, which was fabulous.
Oh, Rashad Vaughn.
Oh my gosh, Rashad Vaughn. So we have been asking people to send us tapes of their act. Rashad is a local comedian, and we know him.
We didn't know that we knew him, but we both know him.
We both realized we
from
knew him.
our hood bakers.
He works at Baker's. And I told her the other day, I can't go in there because he keeps asking me about when the show's coming out. So, Rashad, I should have given you a warning at the top of the show. We're showing your video. Now, did you look at it?
I saw a little bit of it. So
did you look at it?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah?
I watched a
because
few.
he had to fit it on the.
Okay, so there's nothing like I need to worry about that he's going to say.
There's a little bit of profane language, but it's not too.
All right.
Outside of anything anybody
Rashad.
hasn't heard.
That's kicked off air.
Let's hear now 3 minutes of Rashad Vaughn, comedian.
Stereotypes. I hate stereotypes as a black guy. I go through that all the time. I hate stereotypes because they think, all black people rap, all black people play basketball. Like, no, the fuck they don't. Like, I don't rap or play basketball. So I was at this party one time, and then they was, smoking weed and shit. I don't smoke. So they was like, "Hey, Rashad, you want to hit?" I was like, "Oh no, man, I don't smoke." "You don't smoke?" I was like, "No, I don't smoke." "You don't smoke?" I'm like, "No, I don't smoke." Like, how come you black and you don't smoke? Well, that's easy. That's easy. It's just like you white and you don't shoot up schools. Or like you white, but you don't shoot up movie theaters.
Oh man.
I mean, he went there, so I went there. He went there, so I went there. Like, not all black people smoke weed. It's like not all white people shoot up schools or movie theaters. So, like, don't stereotype us, don't put us in the box, okay? Shit. I know I look like Sha'Carri Richardson, but I don't smoke weed like Sha'Carri Richardson, okay? Shit. I do comedy, she run tracks, so
Okay, that was Rashad Vaughn giving us a taste of his stand-up routine. Ty, the singer who was at our Jet Awards, I'm looking at you. Was at the Jet Awards?
Yeah, I know who Ty is.
I handed her, she handed me her business card because I said, I'm looking for acts. She goes, here's my business card. So she's going to join us with 3 minutes of one of her performances.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If you have an act, if you're a struggling comedian, send us 3 minutes of clean video. Don't waste your opportunity at the top of your video, comedians going, "Oh, it's beautiful weather out here, blah, blah, blah." We didn't call you for a weather report here. We want your comedy, okay? Give us the good stuff right off the top. Send it to
michaelscottunleashed@gmail.com.
All right.
It's right underneath your name there.
It's right. I can't see across the room from here.
Yeah.
It is tiny print.
But I'm hoping you guys have younger eyes out there. So send us your stuff. We will use it.
Yeah. And we can actually get it from anywhere, essentially. If they send it through like the YouTube, we can get it there, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We could extract it from those places. But we'd rather you send it to the Gmail.
All right. You got anything else you want to talk about? Or we pretty much went through it all?
No, great show today. Great discussion. Yeah.
And remember, until next time, you take care of one another.